The bass line in Sarah Walker's playlist thumped against her ribs as she walked the tree-lined streets of Willow Creek Estates. 15 years old, earbuds in, hoodie zipped halfway, she blended into the neat symmetry of the neighborhood, manicured lawns, pastel mailboxes, driveways so clean they looked polished. It was 8 a.m., the golden hour of ordinary life, when nothing bad was supposed to happen. She was 2 blocks from Northwood High when the sound changed. The music stuttered in her ears, drowned by a low mechanical growl, the hum of an engine creeping too close, too slow. A white SUV rolled beside her, gleaming and unmarked, sunlight bouncing off its hood. It glided to the curb with the precision of a predator finding its pace. Sarah's first thought was delivery truck. Until the doors opened. 2 men stepped out, boots hitting asphalt in perfect rhythm. Their uniforms were dark, tactical style, but something about them felt off. No official patches, no badges, only Velcro logos that read WCCP in bold gray letters. Willow Creek Community Patrol. The taller one, mid-40s with the overconfidence of a man who liked hearing himself talk, adjusted his mirrored sunglasses. "Morning, miss," he said, voice oily smooth. "Name's Captain Rex Thorne. You know it's against HOA policy to loiter on residential sidewalks before school hours?" Sarah blinked. "I'm not loitering. I'm walking to school." He smiled like he'd just caught her lying. "Sure you are. In that outfit?" He gestured lazily to her ripped jeans and band t-shirt. "Hardly Northwood High dress code, is it?" His partner, a solid wall of muscle named Kyle Bishop, said nothing. He just watched her with eyes so flat they didn't look human. Sarah took one earbud out, pulse quickening. "This is public property. You're not real cops." Thorne gave a slow chuckle. "Sweetheart, we keep this neighborhood safe. There've been incidents. Teen vandals, strange cars. You fit a description." "I fit what description?" she asked, forcing her voice steady. Her father's words echoed from memory. "Observe. Details. Stay calm. Never show fear." Thorne stepped closer, invading her space with casual menace. "Why don't you come with us, and we'll clear it up? 5 minutes, tops." Sarah shook her head. "No. I'm calling the police." She reached for her phone, and that was all it took. Bishop moved with startling speed, catching her wrist before the screen lit up. Pain shot up her arm, the phone clattered to the sidewalk. "Easy now," Thorne said, voice suddenly low and sharp. "Let's not make a scene." "Get off me," she yelled, twisting, but Bishop's grip only tightened. Plastic zip ties whispered against her skin, biting deep as they cinched shut. Her backpack slipped from her shoulder, hitting the curb with a dull thud. The world narrowed to the sound of her own ragged breath. Across the street, behind lace curtains, a shape shifted, Mrs. Henderson, the retiree who watered her roses every morning. Her hand froze halfway to the window. The curtain twitched once, then stilled. Thorne opened the SUV's rear door. The interior yawned black and cold. Sarah kicked backward, but Bishop lifted her effortlessly, guiding her inside with terrifying calm. The door slammed, sealing her in darkness. Outside, Willow Creek Estates looked exactly as it always did, quiet, clean, perfect. A sprinkler hissed to life. A jogger passed by with earbuds in, oblivious. Within seconds, the SUV merged back into the flow of minivans and commuters, vanishing toward the east entrance. Only the backpack remained, lying crooked against the curb like a piece of evidence nobody would see. Across town, John Walker sat in his home office, phone pressed to his ear. The voice on the line was calm, professional, devastating. "Mr. Walker? This is Carol from Northwood High. We're just calling to confirm, is Sarah homesick today?" John's pen froze above a stack of training reports. "Sick?" His voice came out flat. "No. She left at 7:30. A pause. Paper shuffled on the other end. "Oh, she hasn't arrived yet." The air seemed to thin around him. He ended the call gently, methodically, as if calm could keep reality in check. In the reflection of his office window, a man stared back, composed, steady, every inch the professional he used to be. But his pulse told a different story. He opened his laptop, launched the family locator app. Sarah's last ping, 7:52 a.m., Willow Creek Estates, Sycamore and Elm. Then nothing. Offline. John exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled. Years of Green Beret training rewired panic into calculation. He grabbed his keys, checked the drawer for his pocket multi-tool, and walked out. On Sycamore Street, sunlight bounced off the hoods of parked cars. Birdsong, lawnmowers, suburban serenity, a perfect disguise for horror. Then he saw it, Sarah's navy backpack lying beside the curb, one strap twisted, phone half buried in the grass. He crouched, scanning the ground. 2 sets of footprints. Tire impressions, wide, heavy, too precise for a family SUV. He touched the grass where it was pressed flat. Still damp. Recent. John's jaw clenched. A breath. A single, precise exhale. The hunt had begun. John Walker stood motionless on the corner of Sycamore and Elm, the morning sun washing over him like static. He wasn't breathing panic, he was absorbing data. The scene around him looked too untouched, too perfect. That alone told him everything. The grass near the curb was slightly crushed where a vehicle had idled. Not a delivery truck, tires too wide, too clean. No skid marks, no hesitation. Whoever did this had rehearsed. He scanned left, houses identical in their suburban conformity, shutters uniform, flags perfectly folded. Only one sign of disturbance, a lace curtain shifting behind a window. The moment their eyes almost met, the curtain dropped back into stillness. "Witness," John murmured. He picked up Sarah's backpack carefully, as if it were an artifact. The zipper had been tugged open halfway, one strap torn. Her phone lay face down beside it, screen cracked. He held the power button, nothing. Dead. He slipped both into his jacket, eyes sweeping the street once more. 2 HOA maintenance workers were trimming hedges a few doors down. They looked up, startled, when he approached. John's tone was even, controlled. "Morning. I'm looking for my daughter, 15, brown hair, navy backpack. She walks this way every morning. You see anyone stop near here around 8? They exchanged glances, the uneasy kind. Can't say for sure, sir," one mumbled. There was a white SUV, though. Couple of those community patrol guys parked there earlier. Captain Thorne's people. John froze. Community patrol? Yeah, the second worker said, fidgeting. WCCP. The HOA funds them. Mostly they hand out parking warnings, but that Thorne guy. He lowered his voice. He thinks he's FBI or something. John nodded slowly. Thanks. The single word carried enough weight to end the conversation. As he turned away, the men silently went back to their hedge trimmers, both avoiding his eyes. Back in his car, John opened a secure contact on his phone and hit call. The voice that answered was deep, alert, instantly familiar. "Olson." "It's John Walker," he said. His tone was steady, but the words cut clean. "I've got a priority one. My daughter's been taken, likely by a pseudo-security outfit here in Willow Creek. Calls itself WCCP. Led by a guy named Rex Thorne. I need intel, fast, and off the books." Olson didn't hesitate. "Understood. You want me to pull DMV, business registration, HOA funding trail?" "Everything," John said. "And trace any vehicles registered under Willow Creek Homeowners Association. I'll have something in an hour." John ended the call, engine still idling. He stared at the rows of pristine houses, all that fake order, all that supposed safety, and felt something cold harden inside him. This wasn't random. This was control, the kind polite communities pretend doesn't exist. Miles away, in a damp, windowless room that smelled faintly of mildew and cheap disinfectant, Sarah sat in a metal chair, wrists bound with heavy plastic ties. Her breathing had slowed, not because she wasn't afraid, but because she remembered her father's words: observe. Always observe. The walls were lined with mismatched filing cabinets, a flickering fluorescent bulb overhead. The man who'd grabbed her, Bishop, stood by the door like a statue. Across from her sat Thorne, the self-appointed captain, spinning a cheap pen between his fingers. "Let's start simple," he said, leaning back. "Who sent you?" Sarah frowned. "What?" "Don't play dumb, sweetheart. We've had people snooping, activists, reporters, troublemakers. You've been walking this neighborhood every day, taking notes, taking pictures. Who do you work for?" "I'm a student," Sarah said. "I go to Northwood High." Thorne smirked. "Of course you do." He scribbled something on a form that looked suspiciously homemade. "You kids think you can just wander around, test boundaries. Not here. Not in Willow Creek." Her voice trembled but didn't break. "You're not cops. You can't keep me here." "Oh, we can," Thorne said, eyes glittering. "This is private property. Community security jurisdiction. And right now, you're trespassing." Bishop shifted by the door, arms folded. The movement made the floor creak, heavy, deliberate, like punctuation. Sarah swallowed, her pulse loud in her ears. Thorne's smile widened. "You see, we're the line between order and chaos here. The HOA trusts us to keep things clean." He leaned closer, his breath sour with coffee. "So you'd better start telling me what you're really doing here. Because if you don't, we'll have to process you differently." "Process," she repeated. He sat back, satisfied at the fear flickering in her eyes. "Standard community protocol." Outside, somewhere beyond the walls, Sarah heard the faint whine of an electric saw, someone cutting lumber or hedge branches. That meant she wasn't far from the neighborhood. Maybe even still inside Willow Creek. She cataloged details silently: one door, one window covered with plywood, walkie-talkie on Thorne's belt, Bishop's keys clipped to his hip. Fear was there, yes, but so was clarity. Her dad had always said, "When you can't fight, remember. Memory is a weapon." That evening, as the sun bled out behind the cul-de-sacs, John sat in his truck on the edge of the development, eyes fixed on a squat, forgotten maintenance building near the HOA's boundary fence. Olson's intel had come through, and it was damning. The white SUV was registered to Willow Creek Homeowners Association, fleet number 07. WCCP wasn't a recognized security entity. It was a self-funded community patrol project, signed off illegally by the HOA board under a shell company named Aegis Community Services. And the name attached to the bank account? Rex Thorne. John studied the building. One flickering sodium lamp. A chain-link fence with a section bent near the bottom. No cameras he could spot. A perfect hideout for people who didn't understand how visible they really were. He checked his watch. 9:43 p.m. Through the cracked driver's window came the faint hum of suburban life, sprinklers, a distant TV laugh track, crickets. It was almost poetic, how normal everything sounded. He tightened the gloves in his lap. His face was calm, but his eyes were that of a man counting moves ahead. The people inside that building thought they were untouchable. They thought rules didn't apply to them. They thought Sarah was powerless. They were wrong. The night over Willow Creek Estates was too quiet, the kind of silence that existed only in neighborhoods built to look perfect. Streetlights glowed amber. Lawns shimmered faintly under sprinklers. And at the far edge of the subdivision, the maintenance building slumped in the dark, forgotten by everyone who wanted to believe bad things didn't happen here. John Walker moved like a shadow through the gap in the chain-link fence he'd loosened hours earlier. No wasted motion. No sound beyond the whisper of boots over wet grass. He wore dark jeans, a charcoal jacket, gloves, and the look of a man who'd already decided what needed to be done. He paused behind a cluster of overgrown shrubs and watched the building. One light flickered above the side door. Every 30 minutes, a man, overweight, bored, circled the perimeter with a flashlight beam that wandered lazily across the gravel. Child's play, John thought. They weren't soldiers. They were actors in uniform. He waited until the guard rounded the corner, humming tunelessly, cigarette in hand. The second he passed, John moved, 3 steps, silent and precise. His hand clamped over the man's mouth, the other around his throat. A brief struggle. A soft thud. The flashlight rolled once across the ground and died in the grass. John dragged the unconscious man behind the shrubs, secured his wrists with heavy-duty cable ties, and picked up the dropped walkie-talkie. One down. He reached the side door. The lock was cheap, the latch rusted. A slim pry bar from his jacket made short work of it, a soft click, a push, and the door gave way with the gentlest sigh. Inside, the air was stale with mildew and burnt coffee. A faint blue glow spilled from a nearby room, the break room, judging by the TV chatter and laughter. John pressed against the wall, listening. 2 voices, relaxed. He moved past them, down a narrow hallway toward the door marked office, authorized personnel only. From inside came the low rumble of snoring. He eased the door open. Kyle Bishop sat slumped in a rolling chair, boots up on a desk, head tilted back. A half-eaten sandwich lay next to him, a pistol holstered at his hip. John crossed the room in silence, every step measured between the snores. One swift chokehold. Bishop's breath hitched, then faded into stillness. John lowered him gently, zip-tied his hands, and removed the weapon. Then he saw her. Sarah. Curled in the far corner, pale and wide-eyed, wrists raw from the plastic ties. For a moment, the soldier and John disappeared. The father took his place. He knelt beside her, cutting the restraints with a pocket knife. She gasped softly as blood returned to her hands. "Dad," she mouthed, tears gathering. He pressed a finger to his lips. "Quiet." Her voice trembled. "Thorne's here. In the back room. He said he'd." "I know," John whispered. "We're leaving. Now." He helped her stand, one hand steadying her shoulder. Her legs shook but held. John glanced toward the hallway, empty. Then toward the back room door, slightly ajar, light spilling through the crack. A voice came from inside, muffled, irritated. "Thorne." John motioned for Sarah to stay behind him. He stepped forward, silent as breath, and pushed the door open. Rex Thorne stood leaning against a dented metal desk, phone to his ear, pacing. He was mid-sentence, frustrated. "No, I told you, the HOA doesn't need to know specifics. She's a security risk, that's all. We'll transfer her out by noon, no paperwork, no problem." Then he froze. John Walker filled the doorway, calm, deliberate, lethal quiet radiating from him. Thorne's mouth opened. "Who the hell?" He didn't finish. John crossed the room in 2 strides, twisted Thorne's wrist away from the radio he reached for, and slammed him against the desk. The phone clattered to the floor. Thorne cried out, breath gone, shock dawning in his eyes. "You took my daughter," John said, voice low and even, the kind of voice that made lesser men listen. "That was a very bad decision." Thorne's face blanched. You're trespassing on private." John almost smiled. "Try finishing that sentence." He pulled a pair of zip ties from his pocket and bound Thorne's wrists with practiced efficiency. Thorne struggled, gasping. "You don't understand, she was spying, she was taking photos." "No," John said flatly. "She was walking to school." He turned to Sarah, standing in the doorway, tears glinting in the light. "It's over," he told her softly. "We're going home." But before they could move, a shout echoed from the hallway. The 2 men from the break room, Thorne's remaining patrol, had found Bishop unconscious. "Hey! What the?" John's instincts flared. "Stay behind me," he ordered. He slipped into the hallway, gun steady, voice sharp. "Put your weapons down." The first man froze at the sight of the pistol. The second reached for his belt. A warning shot cracked into the wall beside them, controlled, deafening in the narrow corridor. "Next one won't miss," John said. They froze, dropped their cheap imitation badges and backed away. John motioned toward the office. "Move inside. Face the wall." Within seconds, both were zip-tied beside Thorne, who now looked less like a captain and more like a frightened man in a cheap costume. John grabbed Sarah's hand. "Now." They slipped out the side door into the cold night air. The sky was paling toward dawn, that fragile hour when night loses its courage. Sarah stumbled once. He caught her. She looked up at him, breathless. "Are they going to come after us?" John shook his head. "Not tonight." They crawled back through the fence gap and into the whispering quiet of the neighborhood. Somewhere, a dog barked. Sprinklers ticked on. The world kept pretending nothing had happened. At the truck, John wrapped Sarah in the old emergency blanket from the back seat. Her fingers trembled as she clutched it around her shoulders. He started the engine, headlights off until they hit the main road. Only when Willow Creek shrank behind them did she finally exhale, a sound halfway between a sob and a sigh. John reached over, squeezed her hand once. "You're safe now, Sarah Bear," he said softly. But in his eyes, something else burned, cold, relentless. They had her once. They would never have her again. And before this was over, everyone who let it happen would answer for it. Dawn was breaking by the time John Walker's truck rolled out of Willow Creek Estates. The subdivision that had once felt pristine now looked like a set piece, rows of clone houses painted in guilt and silence. Beside him, Sarah sat wrapped in a gray emergency blanket, eyes fixed on the window, watching the fences slip by like bars of a cage. John drove in silence, letting the hum of the engine settle his thoughts. Every instinct screamed to go back and burn the place to the ground, but instinct wasn't strategy. Strategy saved lives. When they reached the outskirts of town, he pulled into a small industrial parking lot, a neutral meeting point he and Mark Olson had used years ago. 10 minutes later, a gray SUV coasted in. Mark stepped out, coffee in one hand, badge hidden under a windbreaker. He took one look at Sarah and his face hardened. "She okay?" "She's shaken," John said. "But she's alive." Olson nodded. "Let's keep it that way. Tell me everything." John gave it to him clean, no embellishment, no hesitation. He described the uniforms, the fake patrol patches, the white SUV registered to the HOA, the maintenance building turned holding cell. By the time he finished, Olson's jaw was locked tight. "Jesus, John," he muttered. "That's not just kidnapping. That's conspiracy, impersonation, civil rights violations, the works. You sure you left them breathing? They're tied up. They'll stay that way till your people get there." Olson snapped open his phone. "Then we move now." By 9 a.m., unmarked sedans and black SUVs rolled quietly into Willow Creek's East Service entrance. Neighbors sipping morning coffee saw nothing unusual, just city workers, maybe, or pest control. But behind those tinted windows were FBI agents and state investigators with federal warrants in hand. At the maintenance building, Thorne's little empire collapsed in seconds. Agents breached both doors at once, weapons ready, commands slicing the air. They found exactly what John had promised: 3 men zip-tied, a table littered with fake citations, a binder labeled WCCP protocols. Thorne's voice cracked as he tried to explain. "It's community policing. We were maintaining order. She was trespassing." "Order," one agent repeated, scanning the documents. "You forged IDs, detained minors, and used HOA funds to finance it. That's not order. That's a militia." By noon, the story had already leaked. Local news helicopters hovered above the cul-de-sacs, broadcasting live shots of officers carrying boxes of evidence out of the maintenance shed. On the lawn, the same residents who had once applauded Thorne's patrol stood in disbelief, their curated peace dissolving into murmurs and shame. Inside the Walker home, Sarah sat on the couch, hands curled around a mug of tea. A female agent, soft-spoken, maternal, took her statement while John watched from the doorway. Every word Sarah gave was measured, brave, precise. When she finished, the agent looked at her with quiet admiration. "You did everything right," she said. "You stayed alert. You remembered details. That's going to help put them away." Sarah nodded but didn't smile. "I just didn't want him to win." That afternoon, Olson called. "They're all in custody. Thorne, Bishop, the rest. And it gets better, or worse, depending on your faith in humanity." John listened as Olson's voice grew darker. Financial records traced WCCP straight to the top of the Willow Creek HOA. Board members approved payments through a shell company, Aegis Community Services, run by Thorne himself. The HOA president signed off on every transfer. "So it wasn't just a few rogue idiots," John said quietly. "No. It was the system pretending to be righteous." Olson sighed. "The feds are tearing it apart. Racketeering, fraud, kidnapping, this thing's going national." "You lit a fuse, brother." "I didn't light it," John replied. "They did." 3 weeks later. The headlines read like something out of a satire. Suburban vigilante force busted. HOA funds used to create private police. Green Beret father saves daughter from fake cops. News crews camped at the subdivision gate. Former board members lawyered up. Residents held emergency meetings that devolved into shouting matches about community image and public perception. And through it all, John refused every interview request. He gave one statement, short, controlled, final. "My daughter was kidnapped under the banner of authority that never existed. Real security protects, it doesn't intimidate. I'm grateful to those who acted with integrity. That's all I'll say." Then he disappeared from the spotlight, the way men like him always did. Months later, Hollow Commons. The sign at the entrance was new. The words Willow Creek Estates had been replaced with Hollow Commons in clean, simple lettering. It was a symbolic rebirth, new charter, new leadership, transparent cooperation with local police. The old HOA had been dissolved by court order, its assets redirected to community rebuilding and victim support. On an autumn evening, gold leaves drifted down onto the Walkers' front porch. Sarah sat beside her father on the old wooden swing, the same blanket folded between them. The neighborhood was quieter now, but not the suffocating quiet of fear, more like peace rediscovered. She broke the silence first. "Dad, why do people like Thorne do things like that? Pretend they're in control?" John watched the sunset glaze over the roofs. "Because they mistake power for strength," he said. "They think rules make them bigger than they are. Real strength's simpler, it's knowing when to protect instead of control." Sarah leaned against his shoulder. "You protected me. That's my job," he said softly. "Always will be." Across the street, Mrs. Henderson, finally free of the weight of her silence, was planting new rose bushes. When she saw the Walkers on their porch, she raised a tentative wave. Sarah waved back. A small thing, but genuine. The legend of what John had done still circulated in whispers. Neighbors who claimed to have seen a man moving like a ghost through the dark, rescuing his daughter from the rot beneath their perfect lawns. He never confirmed or denied it. He didn't need to. Justice had already spoken. Epilogue. Late that night, long after Sarah had gone to bed, John sat alone at his desk. The case files were closed, the chaos behind him, but one page stayed open, a printout of the WCCP's so-called mission statement. Across the top it read, "Maintaining order through authority." He drew a line through the phrase, picked up a pen, and wrote beneath it, "Protecting others through courage." He folded the paper once, slid it into the drawer, and looked out the window at the quiet street. For the first time in months, Willow Creek, now Hollow Commons, actually felt safe. And for John Walker, that was victory enough. In towns like Willow Creek, the lawns are always trimmed, the driveways spotless, and the neighbors polite. But beneath the symmetry and the smiles, There's often something else, an illusion that order is the same as safety. John Walker knew better. He'd seen what happens when men invent authority to hide their fear. And when that illusion took his daughter, he didn't wait for permission to act. He simply became what he had always been, calm, relentless, and precise. The world called him a hero. He never called himself anything at all. He just went back to being a father. Months later, Hollow Commons began again, new name, new rules, honest ones this time. Sarah walked to school the same way she used to, earbuds in, music low. Only now, she noticed more, the sound of birds, the shift of curtains, the way light cut across the street. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was aware. Maybe that's what courage really is. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to look straight at it and keep walking. Somewhere in America tonight, another perfect neighborhood hums under its own perfection. And somewhere, a father keeps watch, not because he doesn't trust the world, but because he knows exactly how fragile it can be.